Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Today I would like to talk about an interesting topic that I've heard a lot around recently in the community about HP inflation. I guess I can also talk a bit about Powercreep stuff within this video, but the general sentiment in ZZZ community is that because this game is an action RPG game which has skill expression, there is no problem the way the Powercreep is in this game. So let's actually look into this stuff and see actually what's going on. Is the ZZ HP inflation an actual problem? Well, we do have a nice Reddit post from Scalier Nebula. They compiled the numbers from Hakushin, so we can see the total sum of HP on both sides on 7th floor before 1.4 patch and also post 1.4 patch, which is a very important context because 1.4 patch not only Miyabi has been released, but they also gave us increased decibel generation rate and they changed how ultimates work, so you can use triple ults compared to before where you just shared one ult for your entire team. This is a very big significant change, and if you look at pre 1.4 patch, the HP did go up, but then it also kind of dropped down, and then it also went back up by the Bernie's banner, and also post Inagi release they did bump it up again with a slight decrease at the end of it, and then in 1.4 patch they started bumping the HP up again, and I would say the big jump looks like to be post Astra Yao release. That was a quite, you could say, significant jump, and then it just keeps going from there on and on. So by these numbers it seems to be like close to a 40% HP increase, but like I said, there are several factors such as getting new drive disc sets such as Astral Voice, which can boost your entire team damage further, and also by having certain type of characters which can help you alleviate this stuff. As of right now, I don't think this HP inflation, at least as of right now, doesn't seem to be a problem, but if they do keep this up and then let's say they never stop, it could end up being a problem at some point, of course. In my opinion, it's best to wait for anniversary slash the patches after the anniversary to see how this will end up being, because I would say that the anniversary unit is probably going to be a very strong unit, and we'll be able to see from that point how the HP inflation will be going. Are they going to bump it up more, or are they going to keep up with this tempo? We shall see. I also like to talk within this video about the sentiment of this game not really being or having power creep, because this game is an action RPG with skill expression, and I would like to point out that you already have games in the gacha space such as Punishing Grey Raven, Solo Leveling Arise, Honkai Impact 3rd, for example, which are action-based games with very heavy power creep. Of course, those games have their own systems by the looks of it, how they handle the stuff, some better, some worse, but the sentiment is that generally launch units from the start of the game will not be able to keep up with later endgame content down the line, even if you have really good skill at the game, unless if they get directly buffed in some shape or form. But here I have a really good analogy, I guess, that I can point out why this type of approach to endgame doesn't necessarily feel fun for players. So I like to use an analogy called the wall. So think of it like this. You'll see some pictures on the screen, I guess. We start with a fence, and most of us can cross this fence, no problem whatsoever. However, then this fence gets replaced by a wall. Now, all of a sudden, most of us might not be fit enough or athletic or whatever you want to say, skill, you know, expression. I guess we don't have enough skill to be able to climb this wall anymore. So now we have the ability to practice, get in shape, get in fit and all that stuff, so you can actually go across this wall. However, there is another solution such as the ladder. You could effectively invest slash buy a ladder which would help you go across this wall. Of course, somebody who has more expertise doesn't necessarily need a ladder that gets you all the way. Maybe like halfway is enough for them to make the jump and cross over the wall. But here is the kicker. The wall itself always only keeps going higher and higher. So eventually, even the most athletic, fit, well-built people will not be able to go across this wall without some form of help of a ladder. They probably won't need the ladder all the way, but the less fit or skill you have, the more of a ladder you will need. But here is the big part to this analogy as well. When you cross this wall, the rewards are always the same across this wall. These rewards are not getting increased, so effectively you could tell to people, yes, just practice a lot, get really good at the game, practice for more hours than before because the HP inflation, the wall is higher, and you do just that for the same reward. And you could argue that this doesn't necessarily feel good because before you were able to go across the fence for the same amount of rewards, and now you have to put way more hours of practice and effort for the exact same reward. So I would argue that not everybody necessarily feels incentivized to do so, and this is a mobile casual gacha game, and not everybody has the time to put so many hours into practicing rotations to try to get the better score for the exactly same rewards they got previously before. I personally would say that this type of difficulty approach is not as exciting. If they did something like ambush point, which was no timer and stuff, I think that was more interesting, but at the same time having a quote-unquote time attack mode with higher HP, it definitely promotes more into potentially selling newer latest units because obviously you have the buffs and mechanics which will benefit a lot the latest newest units. I guess this is the ladder part of it, so if you have like the latest newest units, it makes it easier, effectively a ladder which will allow you to go over the wall no problem whatsoever. I also saw recently a video from a Ben main by the name of Rakaruk. They have within their title, it says, is DPS ban becoming less free-to-play friendly? So even characters from 1.0 patch from the best players, like very good players who play these characters, are noticing this bump of increase of HP, and like I already said, eventually the wall will be too high for these 1.0 characters to scale with skill alone, and you will need quote-unquote a ladder, a form of investment from either other units to carry them or something like that, or hopefully direct buffs to be able to do it. Because this game, Zenless Zone Zero, does function not the same way as Genshin. You could argue in a way it's more similar to HSR, but I would still say it's too soon to be like 100% claiming that. I would definitely wait for that anniversary to happen with the anniversary unit and the subsequent patches. That will basically give us like a clear picture of what's going to be the direction of this game. But as of right now, I think most of us generally don't have problem clearing Shiyu defense yet, at least if you're a longer term player. Also, I guess I can mention here quickly Deadly Assault, because a lot of people like to praise Deadly Assault as like you only need 6 stars to get gems, not 9 stars. But a lot of people forget that Deadly Assault does give you less gems than Shiyu defense. So being able to get more stars in Shiyu defense would get you more gems than Deadly Assault 6 stars. Of course, it's still nice that you have 6 stars for gems in Deadly Assault, but I think it is important to point out that Deadly Assault does not give as much gems as Shield Defense, which I believe it's 720, compared to Deadly Assault 300 gems. Personally, from a player perspective, I don't really feel motivated to practice or get better at character rotations when I could do it before just fine against the same enemy, and now I have to have a better rotation, like spend more hours practicing for the exact same reward. It's not like you get more rewards out of this. At least that's how I see it. And also I would say that a lot of us who play this game are not somebody who has necessarily all the time in the world to keep practicing these rotations just to get the same amount of reward. I would also like to hear your opinion about this stuff, guys. Do let me know what you think about ZZZ HP inflation / power creep. How do you think this game is gonna end up HPing. Personally, like I already said, I would wait for that anniversary/post-anniversary patches to make a better conclusion of what direction the game is going on. But you also have to remember, at the end of the day, this is Hoyoverse. They do have HSR in their portfolio, and also Honkai Impact 3rd, which is an action-based game, and that game has heavy power creep, and I doubt you see good players in that game using launch characters to do endgame content max rewards with. I mean, if you find somebody who did it, assuming the units are not being like directly buffed or something, feel free to share the video, because I would legit love to see it if they can still do it. So yeah, I guess this is it for this video. If you like to add anything extra yourself, feel free to write it within the comments down below. Also, if you like this video, feel free to give it a like, smile, and yeah, I guess that's about it. I wish you a wonderful day and see you next video. Ciao.